Hello and welcome to South Asia Chat, a podcast series brought to you by the Institute of South Asian Studies at the National University of Singapore. I'm Raghaw Khattri, Research Analyst at ISAS, and I will be your host for today's episode. As 5 phases of polling have concluded in the 2024 general elections in India, we have seen a plethora of issues being talked about, from welfare and development to accusations of minority appeasements, debates on caste census, wealth redistribution, inheritance tax, unemployment, and Hindutva. This election seems to lack a pan-India narrative, unlike the ones in 2014 and 2019. To discuss the nature of the election campaign and to look ahead, we have with us Professor Sudha Pai, former professor of political science at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor Pai is a well-known political scientist, author, and columnist, and has over 35 years of teaching and research experience. Her research interests include Dalit politics and state politics in India. Welcome, Prof. Pai.
Thank you.
Now that 5 phases of general elections are over, do you think that the expectation that the BJP would win easily has been tempered? And what are your thoughts on the BJP's expected performance, especially in the Hindi heartland?
Well, the first thing I would say is that this general election is quite different in many ways from the 2019 general elections. When the campaign began, it was thought that the BJP would win easily. And in fact, you have the Prime Minister saying things like that this time BJP will get more than 400 and so on. But as we are moving from one phase to the other, particularly it was evident, in fact, by maybe the first or even by the second phase, uh, the expectation that the BJP will win easily is no longer there. And I think I'll put forward the reasons for it. One is that the turnout has been very low compared to earlier ones. It's true that the Election Commission has put out, figures which seem to show that it is higher than what it was earlier seen. But even then, all over the country, including UP, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, the two major states where the contestation is very high, the turnout is lower than in 2019. Also, there is a certain lack of enthusiasm where the elections are concerned. There seems to be no perceptible, at least, Modi wave, and there's no such event this time like Pulwama or Balakot, which would raise emotions, particularly nationalism. So this is a very quiet, or what has been called a thanda or cold election. And I think there are a number of reasons for it. One is that local issues seem to be dominating rather than national issues. That is, local issues have come to the fore. One is the whole issue of inflation, because there's been price rise and people are finding it very difficult to make ends meet. And the second is joblessness, which is affecting particularly the youth. In Uttar Pradesh, particularly, or in the Hindi heartland as a whole, most families seem to have somebody who doesn't have a job, or the family knows somebody, some other family where there is a struggle for getting a job as such. So economic issues on the ground have become important. That is, this has gone down to the ground. It's not that inflation and unemployment was not there earlier, but it seems to have got worse. Perhaps it is the post-COVID effect as well. The second is that there are two other issues that have now become extremely important on the ground and are affecting particularly the lower castes, that is the lower OBCs and the smaller Dalits. One is the whole question of a caste census. The Congress party has been promising a caste census where OBC is concerned for a long period of time and has made it a very important issue in the election. This has led many smaller OBCs to wonder why the BJP is against it, considering that large part of the support for the BJP comes from the OBCs. So I mean, this has become a question on which people are a little worried that why is it that there's been no general census, and why is it that a caste census is being opposed so much by the ruling dispensation. The second is the whole question of the constitution being changed. Now, Prime Minister Modi's I think 3 or 4 ministers, in fact, or members of the BJP, made statements that, oh, this time we want 400 because we want to change the constitution. So the opposition has picked up this and they are now saying, and it is being widely believed by the lower caste, that the constitution will be changed and reservations for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe will be removed. Now, this is something very important to where the scheduled castes are concerned because this is a constitution that gave them reservations. Dr. Ambedkar made it, and reservations give them, certain kinds of advantages and other kinds of welfare benefits, etc. So these are two other issues which are trending on the ground. The third is the whole Muslim issue. That is the kind of speeches that have been made by the Prime Minister. But that has really come up in the third, fourth stage as such. So all of these are issues which are on the ground and which are, making the elections extremely different. And this is true not only in the Hindi heartland, but yesterday in Mumbai, less than 50% voted. Of course, the election commission's final figures are not out, but the voting is low, particularly in urban areas. It's only slightly higher in the rural areas. It's also supposedly less so far, although some studies would have to be done to really make this clear, that women are no longer as enthusiastic about voting as in earlier elections. So the number of women who are coming out, of course, many people are saying that it's simply the weather, but that's not true in all parts of the country. There are areas, of course, where the turnout has been good. For example, West Bengal, in Baramulla, in J&K, and so on. But generally speaking, it has become a lackluster kind of election, which is very different from 2019. And you're saying BJP's expected performance. Well, that's difficult to say. I don't want to say any figures. But what I would say is, given these kinds of conditions, the question of moving above 400 just doesn't arise. The BJP will probably get 272, which is the majority mark, but it won't do very well like in 2019. So I think there are three kinds of possibilities. One is which the opposition is putting forward and which doesn't seem possible at this point even, that the BJP will fall below 270. The second is that BJP will get 270 with the NDA, that is with its allies. And the third picture, which the Prime Minister is constantly putting forward, is more than 400. But that is for the country as a whole. But I don't think that is there. So the more realistic thing seems to be that the BJP will get a majority, but its performance will not be as good as in 2014 and in 2019.
Right, Prof. Pai, what do you make of Prime Minister Modi's campaign, which seems to have undergone a shift after phase one of the elections?
Okay, so the Prime Minister began the campaign by talking about the performance of his government, of how India was becoming a Vishwaguru, and how his own and about welfare, and made a great deal of promises and what was known as Modi's guarantees and so on. But as we come to phase two and three, because of a certain unease and dissatisfaction that is there on the ground, and with economic issues coming up such as inflation and joblessness, which the opposition is targeting a great deal, and with greater cohesiveness within the India alliance, Prime Minister Modi seems to have shifted to a much more polarizing rhetoric, a sort of acrimonious Hindu-Muslim polarizing rhetoric. So there have been attempts by him to show the Muslim community in a bad light, pointing to their increasing numbers, high fertility, alleging that the Congress will redistribute wealth and constitutional guarantees to them, and so on and so forth, which has disillusioned the community, bringing them out in the first few phases to vote in large numbers in some constituencies. So this change which has taken place is surprising because even in 2019, the Prime Minister did not use too much of Hindu-Muslim polarizing rhetoric. This is because a certain template was in place in 2014 and the Hindu vote had been consolidated. And it's also surprising because the Ram Mandir has been achieved and so on. But apparently, there is a feeling within the BJP, perhaps, that the Ram Mandir issue is not, being is not having that much traction on the ground. So therefore, there has been a shift in the Prime Minister's campaign and the campaign of other BJP leaders as well.
Alright, to move to your most recent area of research, how do you explain the BJP's expanding voter base? What is making the Dalits choose the BJP? Is it an ideological alignment or tactical preference?
Well, I would say that this is a very controversial and a very complex subject on which more work is needed. And there are a variety of reasons. One is that when you say Dalits choosing the BJP, one has to make a differentiation between the Jatavs and the non-Jatavs. The non-Jatavs are the uh, poorer subcastes, uh, large number of them found in Eastern UP and so on. It is more this group that is moving towards the BJP. The Jatavs also have, but most of them have remained with Mayawati and the BSP, Mayawati herself being a Jatav. Now, the reasons for this are varied. One is a change in Uttar Pradesh. Dalits today feel that they have gained quite a bit of dignity and self empowerment, and now they require economic advancement. And since 2014, Modi has been promising them all kinds of, uh, you know, welfare, jobs, improvement in their life, and so on. And so they have been attracted. You see, they feel they are disillusioned with the BSP. So they are actually in search of a different political party. And the Congress is not to be seen anywhere much. And the SP, in fact, is seen as the direct oppressors of the Dalits because the Yadavs are the dominant group in the countryside, and therefore they feel that the BJP is, and particularly Modi, because of his popularity and the promises he has made, that it's the best to move towards. It's also because of RSS mobilization over time. You see, right from the 19th century, there has been Hinduization of the smaller subcastes, for example, the Valmikis. And while it is true that in the 1990s they all voted for the BSP, this kind of consolidation behind the BSP was largely in terms of, insofar as voting was concerned, the cultural, local, specific identities of each of these subcastes, which are found in different parts of UP also, remained intact. And now, when the BSP is unraveling, these changes have become far more important today. The smaller subcastes also feel that the Jatavs have occupied a very important position within the BSP, and they feel that the BSP is a Jatav party. They are now experiencing a certain kind of modernization, entry into politics, and therefore this search, as I said, for a different political party than the BSP. So it's also because the BJP has given them a certain kind of cultural respect. That is, they have, when they mobilize them, they remind them of all Dalit icons in the past, Uda Devi, Pasi kings, and they have tried to include them in that way within the Hindu saffron fold. That is, they tell them things like, that they were part of the Ramayana, that it was the Malas that took Ram across the river. And so there is an attempt to bring them into the Hindu fold. Now, this was very prevalent in the 19th century. In the post independence period, it was not so very apparent, it was a quiet affair. Now, with Modi, with the revival of the BJP under Modi, this has become an open societal project which is reflected in the electoral process. So, for a variety of reasons, both electoral, economic, cultural, smaller Dalits are moving towards the BJP, and you have the pro BSP and the pro BJP, that is the pro Ambedkarite and the pro what you call the Hindutvadi Dalits. But it's also, if we were to look at the question of whether this is ideological or is it tactical, I would say it's a bit of both. There are some who would vote for the BJP because the BSP is no longer there. But there's an equally large number that are doing it for what one would call cultural rather than ideological reasons. They have responded to the Hinduization of the RSS, and they feel more at home now with the BJP rather than with the BSP. And the general attempt to create a larger Hindu identity by the BJP has affected the Dalits as well as the upper caste. The upper caste were always a part of the BJP. Modi has moved downwards and mobilized the smaller subcastes, attempting to bring them into the saffron fold. So therefore, there is a certain coming together of their cultural identities. For example, uh, they are not bothered so much about their economic aspect, at least in earlier elections, but they were more interested in the cultural coming together with the BJP as such. So I would say that it's both tactical as well as ideological. In some cases, particularly among some of the better off Jadavs, etc., if they do vote for the BJP, it is tactical. But there's an equally large number which is ideological. And I would say that this move towards the BJP has been over two phases. One is, you see, if you look at go back to the Ram Mandir in the 1990s, the Babri Masjid Ram Mandir movement. At that point of time, the BJP was very keen to mobilize the OBCs. For example, the Lords, Kalyan Singh, Rajnath Singh, also among the OBCs, and so on, and the Thakurs. But in the late 1990s, the RSS began to mobilize the Dalits because they felt that they should mobilize and bring them into the Hindu fold, create a larger Hindu identity because they felt that Vajpayee had ignored the temple issue and had ignored Hindutva, and his government had really not taken up the core issues of the BJP. So and in this in Eastern UP, Yogi Adityanath with his Hindu Vahini, Yuva Vahini played a very important role. So I think there are these two phases. Modi's achievement is that he has been able to harness this rising desire to be part of the Hindu system and this rising Hinduization. And so, therefore, his achievement is really that. And so, there is definitely a certain ideological alignment, as we are saying, with the BJP. If the BJP were to continue in power for a long period of time, let's say another two, three elections, then the chances of more and more Dalits moving towards the saffron fold are there. But if the BJP were not to do very well, then we might see another round of Dalit assertion. You have people like Chandrasekhar Azad coming up, and other smaller ones. The BSP might recover. So I think this we are in a phase of transition. So we are seeing simultaneously ideological alignment as well as tactical voting for the BJP.
Prof. Pai, how is the inclusionary Hindutva playing out amongst the upper caste supporters of the BJP? Can we say that subaltern Hindutva is a meaningful shift or just mere tokenism?
Well, inclusionary Hindutva was already there amongst the upper caste. That is, the upper caste were already mobilized by the BJP since its inception in various ways through the Ram Mandir movement, the destruction of the Babri Masjid, and so on. They don't really need that to a great extent, although that is a constant attempt on the part of the BJP to keep the upper caste within their fold, and the BJP is an upper caste party. Uh, it is really today the lower caste, the OBCs and the Dalits, for whom who, for whom the BJP is attempting to use what I have described elsewhere as subaltern Hindu. That is, in fact, in an earlier book that Sajjan Kumar and I wrote called Everyday Communism, we called it non-Brahminical Hindutva, meaning that you reach out to the lower caste and you tell them, you are also Hindu, and it is you have always been part of the larger Hindu system and to give them cultural space and give them cultural respect as such. Um, I would say that with this subaltern Hindutva, with you see, as somebody said, one of the BJP leaders said whom we interviewed, Hindutva is a bhavana, it's a feeling. So you make them feel that they are part of this larger entity which is called Hindu and that they would be given greater amount of respect. For example, in Modi's constituency of Varanasi, there is a village, I don't remember the name of the village, but that village is largely populated by Musahars, which are a very, very poor group within the Dalit poorer subcaste. And there, the BJP workers have made a Shabri temple. You know, if you visit the village, it has open drains, it has hungry children, it has people without jobs, it is really nothing there. But they are very happy that the BJP made this Shabri temple for them. And therefore they say, you know, we feel we are also Hindu. So you see, various ways have been used by using Dalit icons from the past and by bringing them in there. So a certain template was there, which was started much earlier and continued in 2014 as such. I would say that there is also a larger Hinduization within society. That is, I would say Modi is a societal phenomenon. You see, BJP, by its mobilization, has awakened old memories amongst particularly the upper caste, but also the OBCs and the Dalits. Memories of partition, memories of the colonial period, where they argue that um, you know they were treated badly, and also of the Mughal period, where they say that it's been a thousand-year war and so on and so forth. So it's as much Modi is as much a societal phenomena today, and the so subaltern Hindutva is playing a very important role. It's not mere tokenism. It has really seeped down, and I would say that even if tomorrow the BJP were to lose power, Hinduization has gone so deep into Indian society that it will still remain. It will not go away easily. And the uh, the other side of it is that the Dalits and the OBCs are well mobilized in order to separate them from the Muslim. That is to make the Muslim the other, and in that sense also make them part of the larger Hindu identity. You see, if you go down into the villages in UP, particularly in the poorer areas, the Dalits and Muslims have lived side by side for a long period of time without too much of, without too much of riots or fighting with each other. But today we find, if you look at the Muzaffarnagar riots of 2014, Dalits were definitely used against the Muslims. So the idea is also to create walls between the Hindu community and the Muslim community, and to bring the Dalits into the Hindu community. And in that, subaltern Hindutva has played a very important role. That is to show that Hindutva is not just meant for the upper caste. And the BJP today, its I think greatest achievement is that it is an upper caste party, where it has been able to mobilize downwards and to gain the support of those who are really not part of the upper castes.
Thank you so much for your wonderful insights, Prof. Pai.
Thank you.
You were listening to South Asia Chat. To learn more about our work, please visit us at isas.nus.edu.sg. You can also get updates from our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.